Welcome back, squad. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Full Ride, the college recruiting podcast. I am your recruiting coach, Quito Delgado, and we have a great episode in store for you today, not because of me, but because of our special guest. Her name is Jen Henson. She also goes by the nickname Gold Digger, and she is an ACT prep coach. That's right. She helps student athletes, or really all students, but particularly student athletes, raise their ACT scores, right? Because we talk about this a lot on the show. Make no mistake about it. College coaches value your talent, right? You have to be good. You got to be, you got to be able to help them win games, right? And the way you do that is definitely with your athletic gifts. But a big part of recruiting is making sure you have good grades in your core courses. And then that last part is certainly you got to be a qualifier. And ideally, we don't want you to just qualify with an ACT or an SAT score. We want you to really knock it out the park, because the better you score on your ACT or SAT, the greater chance you have of earning a scholarship to a school. The more schools, the more options you have, right? So Jen and I discuss why she really recommends students take the ACT over the SAT. So that's a big one for you guys to tune in and hear about. But then throughout our conversation, we also just really talk about, some strategies that you guys can use to really raise your score. And a quick bio as it relates to Jen, she'll tell you as well. But she's a former school teacher. She was in the game for a number of years. I think it's about 20 years or so. So she's a great teacher. And now she's taken her passion for really trying to help student athletes navigate the ACT. And now she has her own business and she's thriving, and she's helping a lot of kids really extend, their dreams of playing, sports beyond high school. Because if you can't qualify, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you don't qualify, obviously you're not going to be able to get that scholarship. But before we get to her, I do want to thank each and every single one of you who continue to tune in every Thursday for a new episode. I looked at our monthly downloads for the month of August, and it was our highest to date. We had, I think, twice as much as our next closest month. So I like that you guys are picking up what we're putting down. I really appreciate it. And this is a free resource for my families. We want to help you because we know you're busy. You're always on the go. You spend a lot of time, traveling in your cars, going to and from practices, games, tournaments. Many of you are now doing college visits. So you can pop in Full Ride, listen to it on your favorite podcast app. We're on Apple, we're on Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Google Play. We also include many of these episodes we upload to our YouTube channel. So just search out URECRUITU. That's URECRUITU on YouTube, and I'll bring you to our YouTube channel, and then you can click the Full Ride playlist. The majority of our episodes are right there for you as well. So want to encourage you, though, because we do want to reach more student athletes and more parents. If you find value, right, our only ask, if you find value in these episodes, be a good teammate, share them with those in your community so we can help grow the podcast. And as importantly, leave us a review and hit us with a 5-star show ranking, particularly on Apple Podcasts, because that really helps us, appear in our category. But that's enough of that. I really think you're going to find value in this episode, this interview. And I encourage you, if you are jump-starting the college recruiting process, or even if you're in the middle of it and maybe you're getting some frustration, you're stuck, you need help really jump-starting the process, sign up for our newsletter, right? Join our squad, because pretty soon, I've already been doing it, but really over the next few months, I'm going to be delivering a lot of college recruiting advice straight to your inbox. So there's a link in the bio. Click that link, drop us your email, you'll join our squad, and then I'll send stuff right to your inbox that hopefully allows you to really take control of the recruiting process. But that's enough talk. Let's hop right into this episode. I hope you like it, and you guys have a great one. Jen, how are you doing today?
It's a great day. I'm doing great.
Well, I'm happy to hear, and I'm even more happy that you've taken some time to join us tonight to really to help our student athletes and their parents when it comes to navigating college recruiting, but as importantly, if not more, having a better understanding of the ACT test prep. So why don't you take a few moments, introduce yourself to our I call us the squad. So welcome, introduce yourself to our squad, and I'll let them know who you are, where you're from, and what you do today.
Okay, that sounds great. So I am currently a test prep coach. So I live in the Houston area, outside of Houston, but that does not limit the students that I have the pleasure of working with. So about 22 years ago, I got into education, loved it, was a classroom teacher. And this was after going to Xavier University, where I was a tennis player. So after college, went right into teaching, loved it, just absolutely loved spending my days with teenagers. And, we had fun and we would learn. And my principal approached me one day and said that we had a student athlete at our school who had full ride for football to several schools, but he had a very low ACT score. And I said, okay, and I'm thinking, why am I here? I don't know anything about the ACT. I'm not really understanding this. And she said, well, we need you to help him. Okay. And so she said, the students love you. You can figure this out. You can help this young man. And I got a book. I figured out enough to teach him that I knew he didn't know. He passed his ACT, or he got the score he needed to be NCAA eligible. He went on to play at Louisville, where he had a 4-year career, and then also played in the NFL as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Well, that just prompted in me a desire to learn more about that test, which has led me to helping even more student athletes, non-student athletes, just regular students. And it's humbling to me, and I can't believe it, but now this is my full-time job. So
that's amazing. That's awesome. And this all from helping one student athlete, that really propelled you into helping thousands. And how long have you been in business now officially?
So I've been in this work 10 years, but officially full-time for 2.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, kudos to you. And especially as a former college athlete myself, and, I remember, really sweating out that I took the SAT.
Okay.
And I was like, I really need to score so I can I didn't have to score too high because fortunately I had a pretty decent GPA, but I was never a good test taker. So I was really nervous. And but I did enough to get qualified and earn my scholarship to college. So I know its importance. So I really wanted to have you on because in working with so many parents and their student athletes, it baffles my mind that I'm not knocking our parents, but it does, blow my mind that, from the age of like 8 or 9, right, they will have their son or daughter do travel sports. They're playing all these tournaments, travel over the weekend. They're hire a quarterback coach, a tennis coach, a hitting instructor. So they'll hire them. They'll join a gym and get a strength coach. they do all this, preparation for athletics to prepare themselves to get bigger, stronger, faster, and more skilled. But then when it comes to taking the ACT or the SAT, it's an afterthought, and they don't wait to do anything about it until it's actually time to take the test. I think that's a
Right.
huge mistake that they're making. So I wanted to have an expert like yourself on, because I want you to really help us, our families, I should say, because I've already done this, but help our families really understand how they can, get a jump start on this process. But before we get to that, you did mention that you played tennis, in college at Xavier. Can you just touch on your recruiting experience? You remember how that was, and and then also talk about, how did you enjoy playing in college? What were some of the lessons you learned while doing so?
Sure. So my path, as they all are, was a little different. I think everybody's path is different, but I didn't pick up a tennis racket until my freshman year of high school, and only because a friend said, "Look, we go to a big school. We have to do something, or we're going to just be lost." She said, "I'm going to do tennis." I said, "Perfect. Let's do tennis." So we picked up tennis. I never really took a formal lesson, and my coach at the high school would train me and teach me, and we went on to become the winningest team at the school. And over the course of, it was kind of a surprise, over the course of senior year, when I'm taking these ranked players, and I may be taking them to 3 sets, or, maybe I even beat a couple of them. And so I didn't get any attention until even really after my season was over, where I was, getting these phone calls from smaller schools, Division II, I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. So in that area, were calling me, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it. They weren't schools that I was targeting academically. So for me, I didn't pursue any of those. Well, I sent my tape to Xavier's coach. I had a recruiting VHS tape, and that shows my age, but I sent it to
But by the
him,
way,
and
just to
he
cut you off real quick, I also set my my, my recruit. I don't want to get sidetracked. I'll let you finish, but I played football, so you can imagine like splicing up all these plays.
Oh my.
And then you send it in
Right.
the mail, and you had to send to a bunch of different coaches. Then a week later,
Yes.
you say, "Oh, I got it." It was times have fortunately changed for today's student athletes. Makes it a little bit easier for them to communicate.
That's right.
But I'm sorry, I digress.
That's okay. Yes, I know. It's funny. I think back to that, but these kids have it so easy nowadays. But so I sent it to him, and he kindly said, "Thank you, no thank you. You, you know, we'll call you," kind of thing. And I thought, oh, no. I'm not going to take no for an answer. So at that point, my dad hired a private coach for me. He was a coach at a junior college in Dayton, and I worked with him every day all summer, every day. And I showed up to the first tennis practice and approached the coach and said, "I don't know if you remember me, but I'm here to try out as a walk-on." And he said, "Okay, go down to this court and play or practice." And I just kept showing up. And I finally said, "So am I on the team?" I was a little confused. We're passing out shirts. And he said, "Oh, yes, you're on the team." So that was my path, where I picked a school for the academic side, and I had an academic scholarship to attend that school. And tennis to me was something that I enjoyed doing, and I didn't want to stop doing it at that time. So, it now that I know the recruiting process and understand it, wow, I would have done things a lot differently and found a place where I could play and that was an academic fit. But I, I only played for my first year, and I made the decision after that year not to play anymore because of my major of education. I had to start being in the classroom and getting my observation hours in, and speaking with the academic coordinator at the time, Sister Roseanne Fleming, which if you Google her, she has just an amazing story in her presence at Xavier. She's known all over the country for her academic support for student athletes. But, she advised me and said, it's going to be 5 years at school if you keep on education and a student athlete. And that just was not in the cards for me. So I quit playing and focused on my education, and now I'm more involved with student athletes than I ever imagined being. So.
No, and that's a powerful story on a couple of notes. One, the fact that you reached out proactively to the coach. You would, politely declined or denied, but that didn't let you stop. That didn't let you. That setback didn't stop you. You put in the work. You worked hard, got through. Had a coach, the whole 9 yards, and then you went and you walked onto a team. But I think ultimately, and yeah, you made some mistakes. You said you maybe would have done things a little bit differently, but ultimately, and I preach this to student athletes all the time. Yes, you love sports and everything, but when you take care of business in the classroom and you're able to earn an academic scholarship, that gives you the ability to say, you know what, it's not working out on the sports. I tried it. I gave it a good effort, but you know what, I can move on. Because I have an academic scholarship. That's why I'm here. So I'm so glad that you shared that. Before we move on to the ACT, because you do say you work with a number of student athletes, I can't help but just ask, what is, one piece of advice you would give maybe someone who's a junior, they're entering their junior year of high school, and they're ready to jumpstart the recruiting process. What's one bit of advice you want to give them to really help them have a solid foundation?
So entering junior year, I would say continue working on your academics. I want to kind of do a tangent here. I was working last night with a long snapper, a young man who's a long snapper, and he's being recruited to play football in college. And I won't mention his name because the story I'm about to tell, he said, I need this ACT score because my GPA is so low. I finally got it up past the minimum GPA required. So now I have to get a higher ACT score. And I said, okay, let's do this. And I said, what would you say to your freshman year of high school? And he said, quit being an idiot and study. And so this young man now going into his senior year is seeing the detriment that freshman year played on his GPA, when whether or not anybody said to him, hey, these scores matter. Hey, all of these classes, these core classes, you have to concentrate on. So, if you can catch those parents, like you said, parents that have 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, get the academic tutor for your child so that they don't get behind in math. That's the foundation you need to be building, because that makes everything else later on so much easier. In terms of recruiting to a junior, I would say be open to talking to these different coaches. First of all, there is no way about every single school that is out there. In my line of business, I am learning about universities, new colleges and universities every week. I'm saying, oh, where are you going to school? And I always think at some point I'm going to have heard about them all. No. Mercer College. Well, where is that? I haven't heard of that one. So, be open to talking to these coaches from these other places, because you don't know what might be the best fit for you. And then quite frankly, you don't know where that coach is going to be next month, next year. The coaching world changes quickly. So just because coach is at such and such junior college, that doesn't mean next year he's not the defensive coordinator at, the school that you're dying to go to.
No, that's two phenomenal answers. And I apologize because I almost pigeonholed you. I said junior year, but you are so right. You may not start actively reaching out to coaches and, getting letters and, it really kind of doesn't start for most, and I work a lot under the radar student athletes, not, your All-Americans who obviously they start getting recruited in the 8th grade, 7th grade. But for the most part, for your typical Division II, Division III, low Division I, NAIA type student athlete, it doesn't really go all in until their junior year. But it is so important to really in the 8th grade, 9th grade, just lock in on those grades.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that you mentioned that. But I do want to pivot. Thank you so much for talking a little bit about the college recruiting. Hopefully our families gained some value out of that. I know they did. So first of all, I got to ask, how'd you come up with the nickname Gold Digger? Because I love that nickname. I'm curious of the origin of that.
I saw it on like a t-shirt or a notebook or something. And it just really resonated with me, because all of the phone calls I get from parents, every child has a different goal, whether it's NCAA eligibility, I want to get into the 20s. Oh, I want my score to be beyond the 30 mark. Everybody has a goal. And that's really what it's all about. How can I help that child reach that goal that they have? And that's why they're seeking out my help. They're not calling me just because, we just really think we want some help on the ACT. No, the typical person calls me because they are in need, and they have heard about me from their cousin, their neighbor, a high school coach, a guidance counselor, and the stories I could tell.
I'm sure they're fascinating. So I wanted to ask because, I didn't take the ACT. Obviously I know about, more about it now, just, because of the students I work with. But there may be some families that they may have never heard of ACT, or they think that the SAT is the only game in town. And we want to kind of, debunk that myth, if you will. So first, can you just talk about what is the primary differences between the SAT and the ACT? Say that 3 times fast. And, why might a student athlete decide to take the ACT over the SAT?
Sure. So, I think I'm going to start with the second question first. So I got into this business, by chance. A student athlete needed my help. He's now, married and has a child, and, it's so cool to watch their lives unfold. But I truly believe, as a classroom teacher and somebody who was in the classroom for 22 years, looking at data, looking at tests, looking at question types, that the ACT is the more conquerable test. I really believe that. I made that decision after I helped a young man during Hurricane Harvey here in Houston. I won't go into the whole story, but his tutor couldn't get to him. He couldn't leave his house. She wasn't comfortable working online. 80% of my work is done via Zoom or FaceTime. And so she said, please help him. He's such a cool kid. And I said, okay, I'm not gonna fail a kid here. And so in helping him with the SAT, which I had never taught the SAT before, I was really seeing why I didn't like, or why I hadn't done the SAT. I didn't like the setup of it. I didn't like the layout of the questions. And then quite frankly, some of the questions were just more difficult. So let me explain some of those differences based on that discussion. It is true that you get more time per question on the SAT. There is no doubt about it. So some people will say, oh, you get so much more time on the SAT. I don't know about so much more time. You know, they make it sound like it's a leisure activity. It's still a test and it's still timed. But the level of question, I feel, requires that extra time because it is not easy. One big difference too that I like to point out is the SAT has a math section where you can't use a calculator. You can use a calculator the entire time on the ACT, and it is all multiple choice on the ACT. On the SAT, there is a section on which you can't use the calculator and on which they do not provide you multiple choice. You have to fill out the answer yourself in the little grid box. There's the math. Really, the content of the two in the math is the same. I think there's a few more questions on the SAT for math. I'd have to look at that. I'm pretty sure about that. But there's the math differences. Reading is really where I think there's a huge difference. I don't like that on the SAT, you cannot see the reading passage and all of the questions at the same time. So it's something that I don't think you notice until you start taking it or working on a passage where I'm saying, well, wait a minute, I have to answer a question about line 17, but I'm on a different page. I have to completely turn the page over in order to see the question. And so I don't like that. I think that's a detriment to students who are trying to answer questions. And the level of question, I think, is just a different level. I think they're tougher on the SAT than the reading comprehension on the ACT. The English or grammar sections are nearly identical, almost that if you cut the tops of the pages off, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart. I could tell them apart, but I don't think that students could. And then the ACT, as a difference, has a science section. So the SAT does not have a dedicated science section. They embed some science within the test. The the ACT has a dedicated science section. Now, I know that's a lot for I'm sorry, did you call them your crew, your squad? I can't remember.
Squad.
We're a squad. Okay, sorry.
Like team, squad.
Yes, I couldn't remember I love it. I couldn't remember what word. That's a lot for your squad to take in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I send you my documents I have where we compare the two tests, and just so your families can take a look at that. It's also on my website. As a link. My website is www.jenhensonactprep.com, and that is there for families to see, because it is a big decision. Now, you only have to take one or the other. You don't have to take both. So, you know, it boils down to, you know, what your student feels more comfortable with. They could try them both just to see, and there's nothing wrong with that. And then if they need to improve, they can improve upon it once they have that initial test score.
That's great. And what in our families by now, whoever, you know, everyone who listens to Full Ride each and every Thursday, you should know by now we always include, you know, the show notes and links to any guests that we have. So we'll definitely include Jen's website, but we'll also include the link to, you know, the differences between the ACT in the SAT. So thank you for volunteering that. So I
Sure.
want to talk about, and I was reading your blog the other day, and I love this post that you talked about. But for those who rather, hear audio versus reading it, can you talk about, high level here, obviously, in the interest of time, but the 5 hacks to help boost your ACT test? Let's kind of really zero in on those 5 hacks, and then we'll follow that up with, why you recommend, and I do too, really recommend taking the ACT or even the SAT, at least 2 times, if not 3 times.
Yes, and don't be afraid to take that test multiple times. So my motto that I'm stealing from a gentleman with whom I'm associated in the athletic world is test early and test often. The ACT does have a 12 test limit, so don't test too early. But don't wait until senior year in February, especially if you're a recruited athlete, because what that says to a coach when you say to him, "Oh, I don't have a score yet," I think you're kind of saying, "I don't care enough to have a score," or "I'm afraid to take that test because I'm not sure how that's going to go." Have a test where you don't do well that you can take sophomore year and not really have to talk about, and know your number. I don't like to get on the scale. Lots of these moms listening to this, we don't want to know that number, but sometimes you have to know that number. And so test early, test often. Well, the 5 hacks, let's get to those.
Real quick though, because you just said something, and I've never heard it expressed the way you just expressed it, and it's awesome, that answer, because I always say, take it often so you know where you stand, and you can always improve, so on and so forth. But the first part that you said is, I think that's a competitive advantage if to a recruit, because let's say you are going into your junior year or you're ending your sophomore year, and now coaches are starting to get to know you. They like your highlight. They want to learn a little bit more about you. If you're able to produce, like, yep, I took the ACT and I scored X on it, and I'm taking it again, the first semester of my junior year, like, how great of an impression is that? Now, obviously, if you knocked it out the park the first time, that's even better. But even if you didn't do great, for you to be able to say, yep, I'm taking it, I'm being proactive, I have a coach, or I'm taking classes. So it shows, how important it is to you, and that you are taking proactive steps to improve. I can't think of any college coach that wouldn't love that type of initiative, particularly from a sophomore. So that's an awesome, another reason that I never even thought of as to why you should definitely consider taking it early, particularly as a sophomore. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So now the 5 hacks to boost your score, because obviously we know that this is the meat and potatoes of what our families want to hear. Hopefully they're taking out their pens and pencils and writing this stuff down. So yes, what are the 5 hacks to help boost your ACT score?
Okay, so number 1, do not leave any bubbles unbubbled. There is no penalty on either test for guessing. If you blindly just guessed and accidentally guessed every single question right, you would get a 36 and the ACT would never know. So don't leave anything unbubbled. Now that has changed since the parents in the squad who are listening took the test, and probably when you took the test. There used to be a penalty for guessing. There is no longer on either test. We have to get rid of that rumor. Okay, so bubble everything. The second, you don't have to answer the questions in the order that they are presented. So if you are on a section and you encounter a tough question, move on. You don't have to sit and answer that question. I would still bubble something, but don't get stuck on something that is tough for you. So just because number 3 shows up doesn't mean that you have to do number 3 if you have no idea how to answer it. You don't have to read the reading passages in order. If you struggle with, let's say, the social studies, it's just not your jam, you just don't care about social studies, then don't read that one second. Skip it. Come back to it. Don't let that one slow you down. Same way with science. There might be a crazy science passage that they put second. Skip it. Move on to the next thing. You don't have to do them in order. Now, you have to be on the section that everybody else is in the room. So you can't say, oh, I don't feel like doing English first. I think I'm going to skip ahead to math. No. I'm talking about within the section that you are on, you can do those questions in any order. Hack number 3 is to know your math formulas. This test is not a mystery. It's not hieroglyphics. It is the same test every time it's given, but with different numbers or different passages that just have the same things underlined. My math specialist has a free comprehensive math guide that lists the formulas you have to know. You can also Google it. You could go online and see those formulas, but you have to know formulas. If you don't know the play on game day, you are out of the play. If you don't know what's going on, you are going to fail at that play. So just like if you don't know the math formula, you're not going to know how to answer that question. You are out of that question. You know, these young men study these playbooks. They can memorize plays. You can memorize math formulas.
Can you say that again, please? Just in case somebody didn't hear that.
to the people in the back, yes. So you will learn what you want to learn. You know lyrics to 3 songs by heart. You know the playbook by heart. You memorize other teams' plays. You watch film and you know what they're doing. There is no reason you can't know 20 math formulas. Give me a break.
Whew.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, I mean, I can turn it on. I can preach. So there's just no. Okay, the next hack. You need to be prepared for that test, and you are going to be there for 4 hours. It is no joke. So you better pack a snack and a drink. I say you have to be prepared for game day. You have to stretch before the test, meaning you better do a couple of practice problems at home. It isn't a scenario where you wake up 5 minutes before you have to leave, pick up the shorts and t-shirt that are lying on the floor that you hope are clean, throw those on and run out the door. No. Get up, get showered, put on clean clothes, dress in layers. Mom would be happy to make you a good breakfast, bacon, eggs, slap that on a bagel, whatever, be prepared, do a couple practice problems. Oh, I'm really awake now. Now I'm ready to drive to school. And then during that test, you get a break. Bring a drink, bring a snack. You need to be prepared to concentrate and not be worried about, my stomach is growling, I'm hungry, oh, I didn't have time to eat, so I just ate an orange on the way to the test. Well, an orange is not going to cut it. So you have to be prepared that this test is important, and you have to prepare just like you would on a game day. The last hack is really just a quick punctuation rule that I like to just teach everybody, because nobody knows what that crazy semicolon punctuation mark is for. And so every time it shows up, they just like to pick it because they think, well, it's probably right. The semicolon, which is the period with a comma under it. Okay. That's what I hear a lot. Period with a comma under it. The semicolon is the same exact thing as a period. There is no difference between them. They are interchangeable. So you better not use a semicolon unless in that same spot you can use a period. So there you have it.
I love that. Wow, you dropped, it seems so simple, 5 simple, tips to boost your ACT score. But absolutely love that analogy, you used with game day. Student athletes, I can also preach, they know by now, but it's like, it just, again, you guys will get up, well, the night before, forget the night before, you lay out your uniform, and then
Right.
go to the game. You show up to the game. You have your uniform on 3 hours early. You roll it up. You get your armbands, your wristbands, your headbands, your eye black if you play, football or baseball, softball. You have a big hearty meal. You stretch. You go through walkthrough with your team. You do all the layup line if you play back. You do all this stuff. You don't just show up and expect to win. You prepare, and you get yourself almost like in a nice lather to have success. This is no different. And honestly, the ACT, that test, is more important than any single game that you're going to play. So
Right.
all those habits, those good habits I'm sure you have as an athlete, just simply apply it, not only to the ACT, but also in the classroom and so on and so forth. But that's awesome. I'm glad you shared that. Before I let you go, I wanted to just, again, give you an opportunity. We already have your website, Jen Henson, actprep.com. That's Jen, Jen, Henson, Henson, ACT prep.
Right.
And .com. And then, are you on, what social media are you on? I know you're on Facebook. Are there any other social medias you're on?
I am. So I'm on Twitter. I like Twitter because that seems to be where so many of the football players are hanging out, and that's at Jennifer Henso 17. And you can find that by searching also Gold Digger. It will come up. And I'm also on Instagram, and my Instagram handle, I have to look that one up because I'm just not as active on that one. And that is Gold Digger _ACT_prep.
Got it. And again, you should know by now, again, I mentioned it earlier, you don't have to look too hard, families. I will put all this in the show notes. So Jen, thank you so much for tuning in, for taking the time to help our squad, if you will. But before I let you go, I typically ask, I've interviewed former student athletes, and they've given a winning play to kind of help jumpstart their recruiting process. But we're gonna tweak it a little bit. And I want you to give us a winning play. I know you've given us a ton already, but anything you may have missed, give us a winning play to really help our student athletes or just students in general, really jumpstart their ACT prep work.
Yes. So here's my winning play. You should plan on taking that test your sophomore year, and here are the 3 months I'm going to suggest you, and I'm going to quickly tell you why. Sophomore year, December, April, or June, because for $20, and it is insane that they don't charge more, you can order, after you take the test, what gets mailed to you is your test and all of your answers and all of the right answers. So there is no mystery about, oh, I think I did this, or I don't know what I missed, or I don't know what I need to work on. For $20, so in addition to your about $50 fee to take the test, those 3 months, and I'm going to repeat them, December, April, and June, you can order your ACT test booklet. It comes to you about 6 weeks after you take the test, and you have good data to dig in and work with somebody to help improve your scores.
Wow, I didn't even know that. That's about a winning play. And if families, you better not be cheap. Okay, you can spend $100
Right.
on some of these camps or
right
$100 on sneakers. And I'm not knocking you. Do what you got to do. I'm a big believer. You look good, play good. So that's fine. but $20 to see your answers, and that's going to give you, a good blueprint to get to improve. You better do that all day long. And now, is that just your sophomore year during those 3 months?
Oh, any grade level during those 3 months. Yes. I just think that sophomore year, it is really before that recruiting talk. And so that's the test I was talking about, that maybe you don't tell Coach Saban that you got that 14 sophomore year, but that gives you time to work on that. That gives you time to work on that. If you take that test in December your sophomore year, you could be done by the time football starts junior year. Done, have your 22, smooth sailing.
I love that. And honestly, I'll push back a little bit respectfully. I actually think, I'll let you run after this, but I actually think it is even if you don't have the best ACT score as a sophomore, because you have your junior and your senior year,
right?
Going back to earlier, just say, hey, coach, you know what? I took it. I wanted to see where I stand. And the reason why I did is because my ACT coach, Jen Henson, said, I can pay the $20 and I can now find out where I stand. So now I got my score. I know what I did wrong. And just like I do in football, I'm going to prepare over the next 6 months. And I'm going to bring that up to a 19. And then if I have to, I'm going to get up to a 23. If I'm a college coach and I hear that, my back of my neck is standing up. The hair on the back of my neck is standing up. So don't be afraid. Now, if you're a senior, a little different conversation. But student athletes, all kidding aside, don't be afraid. If you're a sophomore and you don't have the best score, be proud of it, so long as you are taking the active steps to improve it, and demonstrate that to college coaches. So
that's a great point.
Thank you so much, Jen. And families, you know the drill by now. If this episode was of help to you, be a good teammate. Share it on social media. Email to your teammates, to your coaches, your guidance counselors, whoever is in your inner circle. But please share it. But until next time, this is your recruiting coach, Quito Delgado, reminding you that college recruiting starts with you. What steps are you taking today to earn an athletic scholarship tomorrow? Talk to you later.